What is up, everyone? Coming in. So today I'm going to be doing a live stream podcast with one of my favorite creators. His name is Sam Newton. What's up, Sam? So he should be joining in here in a second. Hey, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Fantastic, man. Oh, damn, this crops in nice and tight on my face.
Yeah. It's up close and personal.
How we doing?
Good, man. Thanks for hopping on here.
Yeah,
Stoked.
absolutely. How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, what's up, y'all?
This is my first time ever doing Instagram Live, so consider it an honor.
That's pretty cool. Yes, we got 22 people. Well, sweet. So basically, we're just going to be talking about kind of content creation, videography, traveling, and as Sam says, sick-ass content. Just a bunch of different topics today. You guys feel free to hop in at any point. But yeah, so I guess the first question that I would have for you is just how did you initially pick up a camera in the first place and kind of start doing this?
How did I start it all?
Yeah.
Well, I had a pretty classic collegiate beginning to it all. A sorority on campus hit me up, and they needed a Rush video, and that was back in 2013. So this is before Rush videos were even a thing. And so I made their Rush video, and sorority girls are the queens of social media, and that kind of just snowballed into being shared all across campus. And I became the guy. I went to UC Davis up in Northern California, and that kind of just snowballed into me being the video dude on campus. And I took that and ran with it and kind of dove into the travel space right after getting out of college. So, yeah.
Right. So, contrary to popular belief, you did not drop out of college after you saw this video.
We were talking about this earlier, man.
Yeah.
I get a lot of messages. So people who don't know me, I made a funny video kind of poking fun at the content creation world where I say I dropped out of college, and I get a lot of messages saying, yo, man, I dropped out of college too. It's so inspiring to see that. And I was like, I was joking, and a lot of people just don't really understand my humor, but you know, it's nuanced. It's a different style of humor, so it's gonna miss a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, plenty of people did understand it. It seems like your new collaborative video. So, for those of you who don't know, Sam's, I guess you could say, thing is kind of like his signature move is doing the influencer hand, which is basically filming your hand like grasping the air, and he's putting together this big, what did you call it, the influencer movie? What are you calling it?
I gave it a random name the day I posted it, but yeah, the influencer collab is what I'm calling it, the collaboration of all influencers, the collaboration to end all collaborations.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny. And that's the video. The first video that you made is the first time that I saw your content. The one where you just poking fun at influencers.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I found out about you. And the thing is, like, the video is so good. Like, I think that's why a lot of people were fooled by it, because the actual video itself is done so well. And that comes from, so one of the main things that's kind of different about what you do is you came from the business side of like doing travel and content creation, and as opposed to what a lot of people do is like myself, I thought I had to build a following and then I could start working with brands, and I slowly grew my following, and it was kind of reverse. It was like I was posting all these cool videos, and then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I really like this. Like, I want to dive into the business world of things. But for you, from the get-go, it sounds like it was a business.
Yeah, I mean, when I graduated college, me and my buddy Gabe, we went on a trip through Europe, and we didn't really have much money. I think I had like $900 to my name, and that was all from just different gifts that I was given after college. So I probably had $500, and then I was given like $400. So I had like a little under $1,000, and I was like, this isn't enough to even buy a ticket to Europe. So we're like, well, what if we get some companies on board? And we were able to raise probably like $1,500 total. So just enough to do just the dirtiest backpacking trip around Europe. But at the time, that's all we wanted to do. So we reached out. We probably reached out to like 1,000 companies on email. And at the time, like when I look back in hindsight, dude, my videos, they were not very good. And I was so like full of myself. I was like, dude, I'm good. Like I'm going to get this. And out of all the people that I reached out to, probably I'd say we got responses from like 15 companies. And then out of those responses, like 10 of them just said no. And then after that, there's probably like 5 that were kind of interested, and then only 2 kind of caught on. But those 2 were enough to pay like a partial amount into that Europe trip. So that's kind of how that all started. And I just built on that, because once we finished that, I told my buddy Gabe, I'm like, dude, we could do this. This could be something that, if somebody out there is making money traveling, I've always had that why not me mentality. So like, why not just give it a try, give it a go? And so that next year I just lived at my parents' house and traveled as much as humanly possible, doing that same thing. I'd come back from a trip, I'd send out a shit ton of emails, just figure out who was interested in coming on board and being a part of the trip. And then we started landing clients. And I think I learned quickly what people's biggest mistakes there is. I wasn't focused on the clients I did land, right? So I was focused so much on like, okay, now I have this client, I can use them to get a better client. And then once I get that client, I can use them to get a better client. And that's where it was so hard for me in my first few trips, because I just wasn't focused on what I had. I was so like consumed with getting a better client that paid more, and that my videos for those clients, like the initial people that invested in me, ended up not being that great, because I was just so consumed in like, okay, well now I have one, I can get another. And now I have another, instead of just focusing on what I had at that time. So that was a big learning curve for me, just going straight into it. But yeah, man, it's been a long journey so far, and we built up, for those of you who don't know, I run a travel media collective called Move to Create with my buddy Luke Jackson Clark. Shout out Luke. I know he'll be listening in afterwards. But we essentially work with clients, just the cliche, we work with clients on branding projects all around the world. But our niche is, we do our best to focus on like 5 or 6 clients, and that's it, and not try to expand too much. Because I know there's certain, and we try to stay away from like the influencer side of things. We don't advertise ourselves as influencers. We advertise ourselves as a collective that can provide tangible value to a company, instead of just come in and be like, yo, we'll tag you, bro. We'll like toss us your Nutri-Grain bar, and we'll go to Switzerland and we'll tag you and use your hashtag. So we work more on like larger end branding projects, and have built up a pretty solid resume doing that. And it wasn't easy, and it took a long time. We've been at it for about 3 years now, but the persistence has paid off.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things that I have a similar story where I used to just like my photos were horrible, but I used to send out, like I would set myself a goal, like 10 emails or 15 emails a day, and just blast them out. And I don't know why anyone would get back to me at the time, but it was like you'd get super stoked if you got a no. Like if you got a response, I remember being like, yeah, this is awesome. They actually replied to me. And then, you just have to like keep going after it, keep sending emails, and you're bound to get some yeses.
Yeah, but it sounds like we both had a very similar start, where it's like, maybe like when we started, our content wasn't incredible, but we just went after it. And that's what, like, I'm sure the same with you. People reach out to me all the time, like, how do I land a sponsor, man? It's the number one question I ever get asked. Like, dude, how do I land a travel sponsor? And it's just such an open-ended question. People are coming in with asking all the wrong questions, where they want this easy like button that they can press that will just funnel them money and 20 sponsors, and then they're set to go to Bali for 3 weeks. And it's not that easy. However, there's always somebody who wants something, right? There's millions of companies out there. We're in the digital age. Everybody needs photos. Everybody needs videos. Luckily, you and I have built ourselves up to a place where we have this content, we have this portfolio, so we look more attractive to companies now because we're established. We have content behind us. However, that doesn't go to say that if you don't have any content at all, that you can't get somebody, because it's just a matter of time till somebody bites. And it's all about doing it the right way, being intentional about how you approach that, and just being persistent. Like, you're going to get a lot of no's, and people are going to turn you down left and right on those first wave of, like, if you really want sponsors for your trips, people are going to turn you down left and right. But if it's really what you want to do, you got to be persistent. But
yeah, and it's one of those things, like nobody, even the best videographers, filmmakers on the planet, nobody started just producing like banger content. Like, nobody's first video is this awesome show reel that you can send companies. It's like, my first video is a horrible GoPro Hero 1 video of me and my friends just dicking around snowboarding. And I'm sure you film stuff like that too. It's like, you can't expect your first video or photo or whatever it is to be the best. It's just a game of like putting one foot in front of the other, getting better than you were yesterday. And I think a lot of people get kind of intimidated at the beginning because they're like, damn, I just sent 100 emails and nobody got back to me.
Send 100 more, baby. Send 100 more.
Exactly. It's the only way.
Yeah, 100%. And I always go back to just asking people why, because people don't ask themselves that question enough. And it seems like a very simple question. However, where it's like, I want travel sponsors, right? So it's just a blanket statement. I want a client to pay for my trip around the world. Nobody stops and says why, right? Or nobody stops and says, like, people so early in the videography game. I'm going to speak for the rest of this podcast so people know from the stance of a videographer and not a photographer specifically, because that's my expertise. But nobody, when you're reaching out to these clients and these companies, nobody is going to come in with a high portfolio, or like early in the game, right? You're not going to come in with all of this content. You're not going to come in with all of this on your plate. And so you got to understand that everybody has that start, and you got to ask yourself this question of why do I want to do this in the first place in terms of the travel space. For me, it was like, I genuinely fell in love with it, and it's pretty easy to fall in love with travel in general, because if you've gone out there, if you're with good people, it's just a really incredible experience, a good self-discovering experience. However, a lot of people just see the glitz and glam of Instagrammers and they say, that's what I want, instead of asking themselves, like, okay, well, do I want to develop? Because developing a business around the travel space is hard. It's not fun. And once you start, well, I mean, it's fun, but once you really dive into it, once you start making decent money, now it gets complicated. It's not an easy task, and people just want everything handed to them in that regard. And so not enough people from my end ask themselves, why do they want to do this? Why are they setting out to be in the travel space in the first place? Or even with videography in general, like, do you want to make videos so you can be really big on YouTube, or do you want to make videos because you're genuinely in love with making videos? You're genuinely having so much fun with this creative process of building something from the ground up, and then you can slowly, like, oh, well, I learned something here, I learned something there. And if you're coming from that place, you're going to go way further than somebody who's like, dude, I saw this one guy going around the world and I want to be like him because that looks dope.
Yeah. And it's tough with social media because it's like 99% of people out there just show that final photo. Like, you know, like, the photo that I always have in mind is someone sitting in a pool with a bowl of like floating fruit basket. And it's like, that is the photo that they see. Like, that is the stereotypical, I made it, I'm traveling the world photo. But no one sees like the 14-hour flight where you're stuck in between two obese people and you're just like suffering and you're going through all this. So I think it's starting to shift, whereas like people are wanting more behind the scenes things, which is cool, but it's definitely just one of those things where it's like, it's hard not to be like, wow, I want to do that. I want to do that when you see the final product. But once you get into it and once you actually start doing it as a living, you realize how much work goes into it. I don't think you can make it very far unless you love the grind. It's just like you really have to fall in love with sitting in front of your computer for hours on end to get 1 minute of footage that is just like representative of a massive trip or something. It's just takes so much work that people don't see, and
even those people that curate their life perfectly, they're spending a lot of time curating their life perfectly. It's not like they just show up, snap the picture, and then they leave. They are very intentional on how, and like I personally, it's not my vibe. If I go to Bali, I don't order a bunch of food, take a picture, and then throw it all away. But to each their own. However, again, it just all comes back to why. Why do you want to do it in the first place? Why are you really trying to get after it? And I think that's kind of where why I started like poking fun at our industry in the first place, and why I started making these videos that kind of just poke at how dumb it is sometimes, man. We try so hard. Everybody tries so fucking hard. And I'm just not that guy. Like growing up in like, or just going through college, right? And just watching people in the travel space that are just like super good looking dudes. Everyone's doing backflips. Like, dude, I struggle doing the simplest tasks, and these guys are hucking triple gainers. Like everybody and their mother can do a gainer. I don't know how that was taught to everybody just in the content world. And now I just go on trips and people are like, I've been on so many trips where people are just trying to teach themselves backflips for no other reason than like getting a cool photo backflip. And I can't lie, dude, early, like 2 years ago, I was trying to get on the back. Like I was trying to learn how to do a backflip for that reason. And I just caught myself, I'm like, dude, Sam, I'm not that athletic. I'm not that interesting. I'm not that guy. So I had to step back and ask myself, well, who am I? How can people relate to me? And I guess I answered that question, which is I got stupid humor. I really, really enjoy just dry, sarcastic, dad joke like humor. And I just wanted to run with that and show people in the travel space specifically that there are other people out there than just the people that you see just doing insanely cool stuff all the time.
Yeah. And like, I saw it, like, not only that, it's just like, I saw it, I can't remember who posted it. It was a big Nat Geo guy. And he was like, he posted a picture of a polar bear. And he was like, I get messages all the time. People are like, I want your job. You have my dream job. Like, this is so amazing. And right after that, he wrote like 3 paragraphs about how to get this one photo, he had to spend like 3 months in Antarctica, freezing his ass off, sitting in a like hide, just waiting for a polar bear to come for like 3 months. He's like, no, you don't want this. Like, you have to pick something that you love grinding at and doing. Because that guy genuinely loves sitting in the snow, freezing his ass off, waiting for a polar bear. And to be in the travel space, you don't have to have an APAC and know how to do a backflip and stay at luxury places. Like, there's plenty of friends of mine who are just absolutely killing it, and they just, like, one of them did a 2-month road trip through India, and he just did motorcycles and stayed with locals. And I think that luxury type of travel is just, it's a little bit just kind of like the in thing right now, but there's so many different types out there. Yeah, you just got to pick what you actually love. But yeah, to get back to kind of your story, what specifically about the travel video space appealed to you in the first place? Did you travel when you were growing up, or was that a thing you started doing later?
No, I left the country. Okay, so caveat. I went to Mexico City once when I was 16. It was the first time I ever traveled, but that was for soccer. I tried out for a professional soccer team. Those of you who know me, I don't know if any of my friends are tuned in right now, but they know I joke around all the time, right? I was a goalkeeper back in high school. I was pretty good. I tried out for the professional soccer team. I didn't make it, but that was a cool experience. And after that, the first time I left the country, that was when I was 16. And then the first time I left the country after going to Mexico City for 4 days was when I was 22 years old, and it was that first Euro trip. And for me, it wasn't a decision of, I want to start a travel company. It was, what can I do to continually travel? And that's that. I was just like, I want to travel more. My dad's a mechanic. My mom's a kindergarten teacher. I didn't come from money. Like I said, I graduated with like $1,000 and then another 20 grand in student loan debt. So I didn't really have that much money to go out and travel, but I made it happen. And that first Euro trip, I just fell in love with it. And I'm like, I got to keep doing this. I got to find a way to keep doing this. And I guess that's just what I did. I just stayed persistent with that. And again, I just never decided like, I'm going to start a travel company. Like, it was more so like, I want to continue to travel, and how can I do what needs to be done in order to keep traveling, in order to go to the places that I want to see in the world and share these moments with so many incredible people. Because at that time, when I was like 22 years old and traveling and single and just running around the world, it was just so incredible to just meet so many different people. And you're just, you kind of slow things down, and you step away from just the grind of what everybody's doing back in the States. And you're like, okay, there are different ways to live this life. And that's what I think I fell in love with. So yeah, I never just made the decision. I just realized it's what I really love doing. And then I kind of, like you said, I fell in love with the grind. I fell in love with putting it all together.
Yeah, dude, I actually have a really similar story. Like, when I was growing up, my family and I always did these big road trips. We'd like all pile in the minivan and drive to like the East Coast or something. But I never went international until I graduated high school. So when I was 18, and I think I was just like seeing different travel shows and bloggers and stuff. I was like, oh, I want to do that. And so I did this first initial trip to Iceland, bumming it, eating top ramen for every single meal, like hitchhiking. I think I spent $600. And I just didn't have any money. But I did this trip and absolutely fell in love with it. And it was the same for me. I was just questioning, like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I want to do this like every single day of my life. Like, I want to figure out a way to do this as a career. And luckily the photography and videography thing worked out. So, yeah, like with traveling, it's all about the people.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the more it's going to keep happening. So one thing, right, for the most part, obviously, I've gotten messages from people that live in areas where they're not, like, I got a really long email the other day from a guy who lives in Afghanistan, and he's talking about how he really wants to travel, but it's super hard with like visa situations. And I was like, dude, I can't really offer too much advice except keep trucking, keep doing your best. That's not a place. For the most part, however, the people that follow you and me are people that at least have the means to get out, not even internationally, just get out of their backyard, right? Hop in somebody's car. I don't care if you have a car or if you have to just hop in, just throw your thumb up and hop in somebody's car, drive an hour away from wherever you live and make something, right? Just make something and just decide, all right, do I want to live this life on the road? Do I want to make this content while I'm traveling and everything? And the idea of just like, it's just crazy how many people are like, well, you're obviously rich if you're just traveling all this, or you're obviously, you come from money, or you obviously, and then you could tell people just have this negative mindset of just this closed mindset of like, well, I'm not going to be able to do that. Of course I can't do that. And you're never going to be able to survive with that. And so you got to, if you really want to figure out if this is right for you, go 2 hours away. If you live in Kansas, drive to Missouri. If you live in Missouri, drive to Arkansas. Just do something so you can immerse yourself in something different, put yourself out there in a different situation or scenario, and start filming something. You can't decide if you're going to be a travel photographer or a travel videographer if you haven't done anything. You can't sit back in your hometown and be like, I don't live anywhere cool, so I'm never going to be able to do this.
Yeah. I've actually gotten quite a few messages of people saying that. They're like, yo, I would really love to do what you're doing, but I live in some small town in some random place. And it's like, that can't be an excuse. Like, even if I don't know if you're following someone, his name is Ty Schmidt. He's a storm chaser. And he just cruises around the Midwest.
Did
Yeah,
PP do their?
yeah, like all these photos from the Midwest, he cruises around storm chasing, are like some of the most incredible photos I've ever seen. And that's in the Midwest, where I remember a couple of the emails were from people in the Midwest. But yeah, it's all just about like getting out of your comfort zone. I think just putting yourself in situations that make you go like, whoa, I don't know if I should be here right now. Like that's one of the most important things to life, because you don't grow unless you're out of your comfort zone. If you're just sitting in your comfort zone, not growing, not doing anything new, you're not improving, you're not questioning anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Yeah, for me,
yeah.
I'm adamant about it. This is what fires me up, because it's like people are like, I can't afford to travel, and then I see them Friday, Saturday posting pictures at the bars with their new pairs of shoes. Like, I can show you guys my closet right now. It's sad. I got a sad closet, not because I can't afford clothes, but because I choose that life. I have 5 T-shirts, 2 pairs of pants, 2 shorts. I don't own much, and I've always had that mindset of just like, don't spend money on the wrong things, because you can buy a ticket to Vietnam right now for 6 months down the line for $600, $700, something crazy like that. In Vietnam, you could survive off $10 a day. You could do a 3-week trip in Vietnam. Yeah, for $1,000, you can stay in Vietnam for a month. That's including flights. So for me, it's just like, say you have a full-time job too, you only get 2 weeks off, then use those 2 weeks, baby. Fly to Vietnam, go, get out there. People just want so hard to make some kind of excuse and see these obstacles as something that the obstacles are more like comfort to them. They see these obstacles and they're like, okay, well, I can't get over that. I'm gonna chill right here, as opposed to seeing it and being like, all right, well, what can I do to get through it? What can I do to keep pushing through it? And embracing those to really make what they want to happen.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you make. Like, people see these obstacles as like a little bubble, like a comfort bubble. Like, no, I can't go because I don't have the money. And then that's not the reality. It's just what they're telling themselves. And I think another thing is that holds people back from traveling and getting out is not having anyone to do it with. Like, that is a huge thing. They're like, I get messages all the time. We're like, how do you find people to travel with?
You travel, dude.
Let's go.
Come
on.
So
the thing is, it's like my first trip in Asia, I just bought a one-way. I was alone. I couldn't convince any of my friends to come with me because, I mean, it's kind of weird to randomly buy a one-way ticket to Asia. It's not that common. So none of my friends want to come with me. But the thing is, as soon as you land and check into your hostel, you're now with like 20 homies who are in the country. They want to travel this country, and you're instantly friends with them because you have this connection. So
you're gonna make friends, man. That's what it's all about. Especially if you start in like a backpacker friendly area, right? If you're like, yo, I'm gonna go out, and your first trip is to Botswana, maybe it's not gonna work out as easy as you want it to. But if your first trip is out to Thailand, like, come on, dude. You're going to make plenty of friends, and half the people out in Thailand want to be an Instagrammer anyways, so you're going to be able to not only make friends, you're going to make friends that want to get out there and shoot and film, and there's plenty of girls out in Thailand that, dude, when I first started traveling, just a preface to everybody, I'm 5'10", I'm a weird-looking dude. I don't pull girls that easily. Let me start by saying that. I do all right for myself. But I went on Tinder, right? Put in my bio, who wants to go out and shoot, right? Swear to God. And this is how I first met my first, like, I have like 3 or 4 good friends from that I met traveling that are just like, yo, I'd be super down. Let's go out. Let's shoot. And I met girls that way. And we went out, we like wandered the beaches and we would film. And it was a great way to get out with somebody else who wanted to be creative and somebody else who wanted to do something. And so stuff like I can't, I'm not a very apologetic person. I don't want to, like, somebody who's like, I don't have anybody to travel with. I'm like, boo-hoo, go, get out there. Again, people just want to put up these walls. People really want to set these barriers for themselves. And they're so blinded and they think that these barriers are something that they can't get around, but really there's something that they put up themselves and that they want there, and they can't admit to themselves that.
Yeah, people just fence themselves in. Like the biggest barriers that you have to face are just the ones you make yourself, the ones in your head. And the traveling solo thing is a big one. The not having money is a big one, but it just doesn't. Honestly, like, people don't believe me when I say it, like, it honestly isn't that expensive to travel. Like you said a second ago, it's like you can have a dope ass Vietnam vacation for like maybe $1,500.
Dude, Vietnam's so cheap and it's like so cool. It's
5 weekends.
Look, my guy Dusty was good. Dusty, you met Dusty on the road. It's a perfect example. We have somebody in the Instagram live right now that Danny met on the road. Yeah. So that the excuse of I had no one to travel with is something I can't empathize with, because I'm like, dude, just get out there. People just want to make excuses, and they're not thinking about. You just have to have a progressive mindset and think, okay, instead of what can't I do, what can I do? Yeah, and like the worst thing that could possibly happen is you fly to another country, you show up, and it sucks, and you're like, wow, this is not fun. I can't meet anyone. Even though that's not going to actually be the case, you're going to meet plenty of amazing people. But even so, let's say the whole trip sucked. You didn't meet one other human. You still got to see a really incredible place. And I'm sure when you get home, you're like, wow, I'm so glad that I did that. But yeah, that just wouldn't happen. Like, then maybe you try it one more time and you figure out travel photography isn't for you. And that's okay. Now you don't have to sit on your ass looking at Instagram all day being like, I want to do this, because now you know, dude, I don't want to do this because I like being comfortable. Because there's nothing wrong. People in our industry especially shame the 9-to-5. People shame people that go to school and that sit back and have the 9-to-5. And that's, by all means, I don't care about. Do what you want to do. Just don't do that and then complain about it. Don't do that and say you can't do anything else. So that's my biggest thing. You're gonna, like you said, Danny, if you go out there, worst case scenario, you just have a vacation, you realize that maybe traveling's not for you, then now you can go back and now you can really focus on something else that might matter to you. Yeah.
And that big what if is out of the question, because you tried it. Like, you went for it. I think that's the biggest thing, is just going for it. But yeah, I agree. Like, the people who have 9-to-5s and just absolutely love it and they're stoked on it, that's so awesome. Like, as long as you're doing something that you're passionate about and you're not complaining and being like, man, I wish I could be doing this, I wish I could be doing this, I'm all for it. Some people, that's just right for them. That's just what they need to do.
100%.
Do we have any questions or anything here in the comments? If you go through.
What's up, everybody? How we doing? I want to catch up on these comments. I know.
If you have any questions, just drop them in now so we can see them.
The little monkey 169 says hello. What a username. We got Steven in here. What's good, Steve?
Camera gear.
Oh, geez. That one. Yeah. No one asked what come on. What camera gear did you, okay. All right, ADP Nike. What camera gear did you take is a better question than what camera do you use? That's a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
The what camera did you use, everybody out there, guys, girls alike, is the most overused, unnecessary question ever. Hit the Google, buy something, and shoot with it. Stop asking people you look up to what camera they use, because it does not matter. George, you know George Hammond?
Yeah.
George used a 6D for, I think he might have just upgraded, but he used a 6D for, Carl Shakur used a 7D and like some random like $80 lens, like the 17 to 35. I didn't even know Canon made that, or Tamron, or whatever it was. I understand it is an important decision, and people really want to make sure they're making the right decision when they're going in financially to this stuff. But man, don't worry so much about your camera equipment. Just get out there. Just get something. Go shoot.
Yeah. I think honestly, like I'm a big culprit of that. Before I got into it, I did so much research. I was
Everybody
looking for
is.
days. What camera will give me this like magic pill to get these Instagram bangers?
That's
And
why.
at the end of the day, I just picked a random one and made it work. Like whatever camera you get, it's all about your creativity. It's all about what you do with it. Some of my favorite photos were taken on this Google Pixel, just because it's super easy to have in your pocket.
This is an ad.
Hashtag ad.
Not sponsored.
But yeah, like phones are really good cameras nowadays. It's actually makes me kind of angry sometimes because I'm like, man, I spent all this money on a camera and now this phone is kicking its ass.
Dude, couldn't agree more, man. I think if you have the will, you're gonna make it happen. It doesn't matter what's in your kit, and I'm saying that from somebody. It's like just film, just get it done, just get it out there.
Yeah.
Close. Hey, has McGee entered your hand video thing? Danny sent some fire in. Danny's got a good one.
We got a squad shot the other day.
Oh, that was the top one for sure. I'm excited, dude. This project has been fun. I didn't expect it to be so fun. People are really vibing with it. It's cool to see the creativity behind everybody.
Yeah. How many submissions do you have so far? Do you know?
I'd say like mid-20s, 25 to 30. I'd say like half of them are really well thought out and done, and the other half were just kind of just like thrown together. So I'm just really trying to figure out what I want to do with it.
Yeah. Well, in your video, you were like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, man. At the end of the day, none of us know what we're doing. None of this matters. Just do something that makes you happy and keep at it.
Yep. That's the most important thing. And the thing is, once you're doing something that makes you happy, you're going to spend so much time doing it that you eventually get good at it, and then someone's going to pay you for that. Like, even if it's like quilting, like say I absolutely had this like flaming passion for quilting. I could just start quilting, and since I love it so much, I would spend all my free time doing it, and eventually someone would see my quilts and be like, yo, that's a dope quilt. And then someone would pay me for it, and then I could start a business doing it. And it's the same for photography, videography. It's the same for anything. Just find something what you love. Find something that you love, and the money will come.
Something tells me you're a closet quilter, Danny.
Yeah,
you're quilting on the low, aren't you?
You want to see some of my work?
I can't see your hands right now. I haven't been able to see your hands this entire live. You're just down there. You're just down there going to town.
You don't even know, and then at the end, it's like, boom. Check out this quilt.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Let's see what everybody's. Peru trip. Silva's visuals, dude. You gotta get that shot out in Peru. I know you messaged me a while ago. Get it.
Sick.
I know. Also, Danny, this is kind of like this is interesting how you hybrid the podcast with the IG live and just kind of toss it in there. So sorry to everybody listening to this afterwards as a podcast as we're engaging with everybody on Instagram Live. It's that dual form setup.
For those of you listening later, next time, make sure you're on the actual live. It's more fun.
100%. Are you planning on kind of turning this and going full into podcast only, or what are your goals with it? You're just kind of having fun with it and running with it?
Dude, no idea. I just like talking to people, and I think there's a lot of really interesting people out there that just don't necessarily have a place to talk as much, including myself. So it's just like a cool way to get ideas across. And I think like I was telling you yesterday when we were just catching up, is I think like random conversations that I have with my friends who are in the industry, a lot of people could benefit from listening to that, like just starting out. So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, I have no idea where I'm going with this or what I want to do with it, but just doing it and seeing how it evolves.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Oh, favorite podcast? That's a good question. You can go ahead and go first if you want.
My favorite podcast, hands down, is The Ground Up Show by Matt Diavella. Check it out. All that stuff. He's I feel like like a 16-year-old girl when I say this, where it's like, I listened to this band when they only had like 3,000. Like I subscribed to Matt D'Avella on YouTube when he probably had like 5,000 subscribers, because I just watched his documentary Minimalism on Netflix, which it essentially just talks about just minimizing your life and the distractions around you to really focus on what matters. And so I Googled the guy, and I was like, dude, this director was sick. This is awesome. So I Googled him, and I went into it. I found his podcast. But he's a minimalist filmmaker that just kind of teaches you how to live your life with a little bit more intention. Originally, his first like 100 episodes were all about like the creative space. So for everybody listening, trying to build something, he was a great source for me to like kind of just look into and build upon. But now he's more in like the self-help, self-motivation industry, which I'm also just all about. I told you before, Danny, I'm a big podcast guy, big book reader guy. Audible is my shit. So
yeah, dude, I love Audible too. Just sitting in the car, just like spacing out listening.
The average, everyone listening, if you don't listen to audiobooks, you're screwing yourself. If you go, the average American sits in the car for a semester of college every year. Think about the amount of time that is. You sit in the car for over a semester of college, just sitting and listening to Mike Posner. I don't know what you're listening to, but just if half the time, you know, obviously don't be the guy who picks up your homie and you're listening to a podcast. Nobody wants that. Just when you're by yourself, throw on a podcast, throw on an audiobook. There's just so much value in just listening. I don't sit down and actually read. I'm just a big audiobook guy. But for me, it's like, did you throw it on? Even if it's in the background and you're like, oh, okay, I missed a chapter or two, just go back, listen to it again. It's easy.
Yeah, and like books are so cool because it's basically like a little capsule of someone's entire life experience in something you can read or listen to in like 10 to 15 hours. Like someone's the wisdom they've learned in their entire life is in this tiny little packaged thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a cool way to get different perspectives on things. And yeah, Audible is like the best invention.
Yeah, so make sure to swipe up. You'll get 15% off.
3 months free.
Mike asked what my favorite book is, I guess. But also, you could probably toss in your answer here on, because I cut you off. You didn't even give your podcast yet. But for books, I'm skewed because I always say my favorite book is the book I'm reading. But Essentialism, I never know authors, but Essentialism and The Obstacle is the Way. I just finished both of those this week, and they were just both about just minimizing. Essentialism's all about the art of saying no in a world of Gary V's, where everybody says yes and everybody wants you to put out 1,000 different pieces of content every day. There's no right way and there's no wrong way to do anything. However, my approach to my content and where I can kind of say I've gotten my success is stepping back and really just being intentional on what I put out there, and want to be as high quality as possible every time somebody relates with my brand, as opposed to being somebody who's just like content. So Essentialism is the name of that book, and it's
fuego.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, so I guess to get back to the podcast things, I really love Joe Rogan. He just has like such interesting people on, and he's not afraid to ask the tough questions. Yeah, he has some really cool guests on, some really smart people. Also some people like Alex Jones. Like, I don't know if you watched the Alex Jones.
I haven't watched that.
Dude, it's 5 hours of just dying laughing. Like, I don't know how that man, yeah, he's like so funny. It doesn't seem like it's real. Yeah, other podcasts. Some of my friends run a podcast. It's called the Dark Room Podcast. And they actually have like other content creators and people who are in the film photo world. And they just talk to them about their story, and like just kind of similar to this, where it's just like creators talking to each other. So I listen to that a lot. Yeah, as far as I really love reading, like I love audiobooks, but I kind of like the feeling of a book in your hand too. And you can sit in public and everyone will be like, wow, that person still reads real books. And everyone will look at you and be like, wow.
You can get on there's an Instagram page. It's called Hot Guys Who Read.
Are you serious?
You can get on that. Yeah, it's just dudes sitting in like the New York subway and girls just creep on them. I don't like follow it or anything, like whatever. But no, yeah. For me, I just try to audiobooks have been really good for me. And like I said, dude, it's audiobooks, you can get through them so quickly that it's like it doesn't really seem like a waste of time if you read it twice, which is cool.
Yeah, and there's just so many good ones out there. It's super cliche to say, but one of my favorite books is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's really good. Yeah, it's one of those cliche things that everyone's like, no, everyone's reading that, so I don't want to read it. But
yeah, but there's a reason it got famous, you know?
Yeah. And it's so different from every other self-help book out there. It's just like very similar to, I think, what you were saying about Essentialism is the book that you said. I want to read that, by the way. But it's just a very counterintuitive approach to finding success. It's kind of about redefining success. Like, success isn't having a big house and a hot wife and an expensive car. It's just about doing something you like and not feeling depressed while you're looking at someone with a Ferrari. Because odds are, like, that person's super unhappy.
That guy's like, nice spoon. I realized I was playing around with the spoon that whole time. No, but to go on that point, dude, I like that book because it was the first book I ever read that made you like address your own mortality in a way that's like a positive way, I guess, which like I thought was really cool. Where everyone's always just scared of dying, so they just avoid it, or they throw so much shit in front of their lives, so they're just like, you're constantly distracted, so you don't have to worry about dying, because what, everybody, you're gonna die. So that was the cool thing about Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Is the first book I think I ever read that like made you step back and be like, dude, if you're gonna die, as blunt as that sounds, so just why not do what did Jim Carrey say? You can fail at what you don't want to do, so why not try to fail at what you do want to do? Or something like that.
Yeah, and it's a weird topic to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it happens to everyone.
We're getting deep, baby. We're getting deep.
What?
I said we're getting deep here.
Yeah, we're getting too deep. But so the other question that I had was what, which is like, first off, the worst question in the world that there's no answer to. But everyone asks it. What's your favorite place you've been?
Favorite place I have been?
Or like a place you would recommend people to go to if they're looking for a cool place to go.
Vietnam. I say it time and time again. Vietnam.
Yeah.
It's different. It's so cool. There's nothing like the thing about Thailand and Indonesia are both incredible, and the people in Thailand and Indonesia are much more friendly than in Vietnam. That's just kind of the reality of it. Not to say there aren't friendly people in Vietnam. However, if you go to Thailand and Indonesia, it's just much warmer, I guess, with like how people greet you. However, if anybody's been to like a lot of Thailand and Indonesia, or in Indonesia specifically, the hot spots people travel to are very like they've been developed pretty heavy now and are almost pretty Western, and Vietnam's definitely on the same path. However, there's just so many spots in Vietnam that we felt out there, man. We were so deep, and you were just like, and we never felt like we were in any kind of, like, we never felt unsafe in Vietnam. We never felt like we were gonna run out of money or like get robbed or anything. It was just a all around, just hop on a motorbike and go through Vietnam. I suggest that to everybody. My other suggestion is Iceland, but that one's a little bit tougher because Iceland costs an arm and a leg and your firstborn child to go for a week. So
not if you do it like me. Just pack a tent, only eat top ramen, and hitchhike. And
did you hitchhike Iceland?
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. That's rad.
It was my first ever trip, and it was like the scariest thing ever. Just
Did you
walking
go
up
all
the
the way?
road.
I keep picking up the spoon. Did you go all the way around the island? The whole, what is it? The Golden Circle? Ring Road? Ring Road?
No, I didn't make it all the way around. And dude, to be honest, this was 3 years ago or so. And my phone actually broke right before I went there. And before I went there was when I was gonna do all my research on where I wanted to go. It was kind of like a random thing where I was like, I want to go to Iceland. And my phone was broken, like it wouldn't work with Wi-Fi or anything. So I had no idea what I was gonna see or what to do. I didn't know like the names of waterfalls that I wanted to see, literally anything. But I just like showed up, and at the airport, I just went up to some dude at the baggage carousel. I was like, "Hey, are you going into town? Like, I need a ride." And I was like, I had never traveled before, never really gotten out of a comfort zone. But ever since that moment, I ended up meeting like so many cool people, and they kind of showed me like, "Oh, you should go here, you should go here, you should go here." So I didn't make it all the way around, but I kind of moved around on the south coast a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I spent like $600 for 10 days. So
Yeah, and that's probably also the day of WoW Airlines, RIP.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder now after WoW went down, dude. I went like 2 weeks after WoW went down. My flight was like $890 compared to what I was gonna buy for like $350. I was like, damn,
Jeez.
I messed up. But I waited late, and it turned out in my favor, because if I would have bought my WoW ticket, since they folded, all those tickets just poof.
Yeah.
So,
I never heard, like, it sounded like there's a bunch of people stranded places, but I never heard like a follow-up. I don't know what happened with that.
yeah, I was stranded with SAS, Scandinavian Airlines. They screwed us over, and we had a big project that we were supposed to go, and they were just like, "Oh, our pilots are on strike. Sorry." And we're like, "What?
Really?
That's it?" Yeah. Burned a
Did
bunch
you
of
end up
money.
getting another flight?
Huh? Yeah. I had to stay in Europe for an extra 2 weeks. It was not fun. It was not the ideal. I was literally, for 4 days, I was in my buddy Anders' apartment, just eating like spaghetti in Copenhagen, just sitting there like in no man's land, waiting for the next time we could leave. So it wasn't ideal. But again, like we talked about, those are the situations you run in time and time again when you travel that nobody wants to talk about, or that nobody addresses in general. So
Yeah, and I think another like important thing is to do this, to like travel all the time and have that be your work. There's definitely a lot of sacrifices, and I don't think many people see that. Just like being gone all the time, like rarely having a place where you're just not constantly moving around. There's definitely downsides. Like, I think a lot of people look at it as like the dream job, and I love it. I absolutely love it. But like there is some sacrifices that you have to go through. Yeah.
no, and 100%. And the reason why we say this, everybody, as I see my buddy AJ just hammering away at the hearts right now on the side. The reason why we keep coming back to this is just because people just like glorify the lifestyle so much. And the reason why we keep coming back to some of the downsides, not because Danny or myself are inherently pessimistic. It's just that people just don't remind themselves of the fact that these people that you idolize online don't necessarily live the lives they continually put out, and that there is much more of a grind behind actually building yourself up to sustain a lifestyle of videography, photography, whether it's in the travel space or not.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we have about like 5 minutes left until Instagram cuts us off. I don't know why. We could talk until then and see if the conversation is still going. We can restart. But if we could just get some last minute questions down here.
Yeah, anybody got any last minute? I wish I could travel a lot, but I'm a woman, so I feel so. Again, I cannot answer from a place of true understanding from that, because obviously I'm a guy. However, there are plenty of places, and I've met so many girls that have traveled on their own in different countries that have found, once you actually go out to certain spots, that it's not nearly as dangerous. And if you're smart about it, and if you go about it in a way that isn't drinking at 2 a.m. and you're wandering the streets alone, a lot of times you'll be pleasantly surprised how much safer these countries that are advertised as unsafe actually are.
Yeah, and like as soon as you get to a place and you're staying in a hostel, likely there'll be another person exactly like you with the same situation, also looking for someone else to travel with, and you won't be alone for long, for sure. But yeah, you just have to be careful about it. Just like use your head. One of the big things with traveling is like people are always like, oh, this country's unsafe, this country's unsafe, this country's unsafe. But in the United States, like big cities, like a lot of them are super unsafe, like more unsafe than a lot of these international places that are kind of taboo. Unsafe.
Yeah, you just came back from Istanbul, right?
Yeah, one of the most welcoming, like awesome places I've been. Like everyone was smiling, everyone was so friendly, and everyone back home was saying don't go there. So
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy the perspective that actually like getting out there provides for you. But yeah, man, I think unless anybody else has any, when you come into the OC, Sam, I'll be up and down the OC somewhat towards the end of summer there. So hopefully we can run into each other, Steven. Yeah, if anybody else has any last minute 3-pointers they want to shoot our way with our couple seconds, favorite memory from staying in the hostel? No. It's your favorite memories come from leaving the hostels. Thanks for doing this live chat and podcast. I think that's some great things. Thanks for tagging along. It's cool to see people commenting because you always just see the number in the top. It's cool to see that there's some real people.
Yeah.
So shout out to all you guys. Hopefully, if you're coming from Danny's page, hopefully you guys enjoyed my perspective on things. And if you're coming from my page, make sure you shoot over to Mr. McGee's IG right there. Click on it. He's got some hyper dank, dope ass content. So check it out. But yeah, dude, I really appreciate you having me on board, and we definitely got to do this another time.
Yeah, man, this was super fun. Thanks so much for hopping on. And like he said, everyone is coming from my page. Go check out his page. Enter into his collab video. It's hilarious. So,
anybody who's coming from my page right now too, come on, get it. I know you were thinking about entering the collab video. Let's get it. Let's make it good. Come on.
Let's do it. All right, man. Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Good talking to you.
100%. Thank you. Take it easy.
See you soon.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for tuning in.